Hello and welcome to The Average Old Guy. I'm TJ, the old guy, and today is my 64th birthday. And I know what you're thinking, yeah, you only look 20, and yeah, I do, but it is truly my 64th birthday. And I thought I would talk today, instead of skate, I want to talk about something that I mentioned in a video a couple weeks back, and it's unintended consequences. Now, if any of you are familiar with the law of unintended consequences, it basically says, and a lot of time it applies to governments and government policies, but what it says is that it's virtually impossible to predict the long-term ramifications of some specific action or policy. And it's generally negative. Governments make decisions that affect things years later that are bad news. And of course, that happens all the time. But I want to talk about something positive that's come about because of inline skating. So my law of unintended consequences is a positive thing, and it came about because of inline skating and skateboarding too, because I was skateboarding last year at this time. So let's talk about how that's affected me. So for anybody unfamiliar with what my path has been, I started almost 2 years ago. My son wanted to inline skate. He wanted to aggressive inline skate and asked me, "Hey, Dad, you want to do it?" I'm like, "Sure, heck yeah, I'll try anything." And I've been an endurance athlete my whole life. So, I was not worried about being able to skate. I've worked out, I've lifted weights, so I stay in shape, and doing it was not a problem. And I quickly found out, though, once we started, that aerobic capacity was really not very meaningful to inline skate. There was a lot of quickness and strength and mobility involved in it. And I quickly found out that I did not have those things. Years of endurance training had left me really kind of stiff and immobile. Yeah, I was strong. I'm still pretty strong, but I have some injuries. I have a right knee that's got bad arthritis in it from surgery in my 20s. I've got a separated left shoulder, and I've got a broken left wrist. Broken as in I have a non-union fracture of the scaphoid bone. So I have two bones there instead of one. It never healed when I was a kid. So I do have some significant injuries that have caused me problems, but I didn't realize how big a problem some of those things were until I started inline skating. Now, it didn't take me long once we started inline skating to realize how much weaker my right leg was than my left leg, which is my bad knee. And of course, I've known that my left arm is significantly weaker than my right arm for years. Like I said, I've got a AC separation that I probably did 15 years ago, and I've known that one, but I didn't realize quite how much more strength I had in my left leg than my right leg. And I'm not left-legged, I'm right-legged. So it brought to my attention really quickly. And what it's done over the course of the past probably year and a half is I've really started to work on evening out my strength on both sides. And I'll show you some of the things that for me are big, big deals. For you guys, maybe they're not, but I will say a couple of these are big deal for anybody who's 64, anybody who's over 50. A couple of these things are things that you should be working on. So let's get right to some of the things that I've been doing to improve my my balance. So the biggest thing is I've started doing unilateral exercises, and what that is just one arm or one leg at a time. I don't do as much one-legged because my right leg is so much weaker, but I'll show you a couple things I've been doing that. But one of the big things I've been doing is I got an adjustable kettlebell. So this is a Titan adjustable kettlebell, and it's like 12 to 32 kg. That's a 16 kilogram fixed bell, but this is a bell that's adjustable. So I started out with this bell at 12 kilograms. That's as light as it'll go. And I really had a hard time with this left shoulder doing anything with 12 kilograms. And now I'm up to 16 kilograms left and right. And I do more left arm than I do right arm to try and make up for that. But I'll show you a couple things I've been able to do. And this has only been in the past year and a half. So, don't think you can't make gains when you get older, because absolutely you can. Am I as strong as I was when I was 30? No, probably overall. But that doesn't mean that you can't get stronger. Maybe I can't bench press as much, but I certainly wasn't doing kettlebells when I was 30. So I'll show you a couple things I can do with this kettlebell that I could not do when I first started a year and a half ago. So to me, progress is progress, and I love making progress. So I'll show you a couple things now. So this is a kettlebell clean and press. And again, when I first started, I couldn't even do this with the 12 kilogram kettlebell left-handed. Now right-handed I don't have any problem, but I'm trying to catch up left and right. So now I'm up to a 16. I can't do a whole lot. I just worked out yesterday, but so kettlebell clean and press was 16. So again, I started with the 12, and now, for some diligent work, I'm up to 16. And then on top of that is the kettlebell snatch, which again, I couldn't even do that with a 12 kilogram. And now I'm able to do these with the 16 left-handed. So I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, that really, it may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot. That shoulder has been just trash for years, and I've let it go. So, it's coming back. And again, this is all because of inline skating, because I decided that I need to be the same strength on both sides. I need to be able to do everything left side that I can do right side. So that's a big deal for me, and I'll show you the only real thing I'm doing. Well, let's do some jumps. So something else I've been working on is jumps. And I'll tell you that jumping with a bad knee is hard. I couldn't jump on this very much 2 years ago. So I've been working on that, and now I can jump and do like a tiny spin into it, all because I wanted to get better at inline skating. So for me, that was extremely difficult. Just jumping on from the front and jumping down was difficult. So that's something that I've worked my way up to this in the past year and a half. And so, I'm pretty excited about that, even though, it probably doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you've got an injury as bad as my knee, that's a big deal. And so here's another one that for me was, it's mental and physical. Anything I do with that right leg, there's a lot of mental to it, because it hurts to do a lot of stuff. But I do want to try, and I've got to strengthen that leg. So I've been doing those jumps. I got a sandbag. So I've been doing throw up the sandbag and do squats, walk around with it. But I've got these bands, these nice bands. I got those for Father's Day, which was last Sunday. This is the 22nd, so it's my birthday. You probably won't see this for several weeks, but I got these bands, and I'm able to do like a pistol squat on my bad leg. And you can't, I don't know, unless you've got arthritis and you're in pain, you can't know how that feels to be able to try and do something like this. So let me show you what I've been able to do with these bands, right-legged, which again, I'm trying to work that right leg and catch up with my left leg. So let's take a look at a couple pistols. All right, so I will say that doesn't look like much, but again, a year and a half ago, that was not even in my wheelhouse mentally, definitely not physically. So I've made huge strides with that, and this is very recent. So I'm working on that, and now I'll show you the two things that I'm most happy about and most excited about. So I've been doing a mobility program a little bit before I started skating, because I was skateboarding a little bit before then, and I've really, every single day I do a mobility exercises to try and get my knee and get my hips in shape. And these two next things I'm getting ready to do are something that I just, for probably the last 20 years, I was unable to do because of the mobility in my right leg. I just could not bend that leg far enough towards my hip to do these two things. And they're getting off the ground. So that if you're anywhere over 50, being able to get off of the ground without using your hands is incredibly important. It's one of the longevity factors they say is for how many hands it takes you to get off the ground. So if you're over 50 and you have to use your hands to get off the ground, then I encourage you to start working on some of these. And I'll show you what I could do first, and then I'll show you what I've worked my way into, because I would say I'm proud of them, but I'm proud of myself for doing them, because it's a big deal for me to be able to bend my leg and do these things, because probably for 20 years I couldn't. So the first thing is just, if you're over 50, you need to be able to get off the ground without using your hands. And, there are a lot of different ways to do it. And here's the way I've always been able to do it. So you move over like this, you get up, and then you stand up. So I would say if you can't do that, you really need to work on that, because, if you can't get off the ground skating, I have to get off the ground because I'm on the ground all the time. But if you can't get yourself somehow where you can get off the ground without using your hands, then you really need to work on that. I still can't do it quite with my right leg. I don't have exactly what I need here. I can push up just a hair and then do it, but I don't have quite the mobility that I need right-legged to get up. I have to push myself just a hair. So that one's still coming, but these last two are the ones that I'm most happy with myself. So I'm going to take my shoes off just because it's easier on my feet. And again, I've been working on these for months and months. I started with weights. I had to throw weights in front of me. And now I'm to the point where I don't have to use weights. So the first one is kind of a cross-legged get up. And for years, I just couldn't bring this leg like any in. That was pretty much it right there. And now I'm able to bring it in, almost all the way. So I can do a cross-legged get up like that. And for me, that's huge. Like I said, 20 years, I probably couldn't do that. And along those same lines is just doing it from this position. Now still, you see, I still won't go in quite so far, but I couldn't get up. I could throw a weight in front of me sometimes and get up, but I just couldn't get up like that. So now, I'm able to do, probably looks terrible on the video, but so I'm able to do that. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So all of these things are just direct unintended consequences from skating. So I just wanted to be a better skater. I wanted to not hurt as much. I wanted to be able to jump higher. And so I had to start working on these things. In the end, what does all this have to do with skating and fitness? And I'll just say, try to see the positive. Even if you're limited, try to see the positive in that limitation. For me, I was limited in mobility. I was limited in strength. And I've tried to make myself stronger and more mobile because of that. And even if it doesn't have a huge effect on my skating, which it has, it's had a huge effect on my life, because there are other parts of my life like mountain biking, dirt biking, other things that I do that are positively affected by me having more even strength, having more strength in my wrist. I didn't even show you the heavy clubs. I've been doing heavy clubs, one-handed stuff that have really improved my wrist and forearm strength. So it's got a huge unintended effect on a bunch of different areas of my life. And I just encourage you, if you've got an area where you feel limited, try to see the positive in that. See, you know, what can I do to get better? What can I do to lessen that limitation? You know, there's things like my leg. I'm only going to go so far with that leg. I did decide to stop grinding. If you watch my video from Apex, that was just something that was causing me way too much pain, and it wasn't worth that pain. So I decided to stop doing that. But there are other things you can do if you find yourself limited by, you know, pain or injuries or even age, to just try and make progress with that. And again, this has not been an overnight thing. I've worked for coming up on 2 years on all of this stuff to try and get to this point. And I've got a lot more work to do. That right leg has a lot more strength to gain. That left shoulder, left arm, wrist has a lot more strength to gain. But in the end, it just was an unintended consequence from skating that's made a huge positive influence on my life. And I'm just so happy that I'm able to do this at 64 and keep skating. So hopefully Seth and I are going to go out skating tomorrow. It's supposed to be 100 degrees here yet again, like it was in Troy. But, you know, it's just one of those things you deal with in the summer in the South. It's hot, it's humid, mosquitoes are bad, but you got to go out and skate anyway. So I hope you like this content. I hope maybe it, you know, gives you think about something, spurs you on to do, you know, some kind of workout that maybe you haven't done before. And if you can't get off the ground with no hands, hopefully it will definitely spur you on to start working on that, because that's incredibly important. So like always, I appreciate you guys watching. And if you want to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button. I wouldn't mind a thumbs up if you liked it. And from my basement gym on my 64th birthday, like always, we'll see you on the next one.